Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. This is the 7th take of the 2nd installment of Marta's Sci-Fi Seminar. Like the 2nd installment of the Mystery Masterclass went off right like that. And then this video that I'm shooting the same day, just, wow, there have been difficulties. But this time for sure, Bullwinkle. So, welcome back. Having said I'm going to run this like a class, I've been doing a lot of thinking the last week about what our syllabus might look like. And yes, there will be homework. Stay tuned. The next 2 weeks, today and next week, what I want to focus on is the notion of inspiration. Where do you get the inspiration to write a science fiction novel? Obviously, inspiration can come from anywhere in science fiction. It's often the weirdest stuff that results in the best sci-fi, but sometimes what's weird about what starts a great science fiction story is that it's something that seems very ordinary. I am one of those writers. I'm one of those academic types, if you want to call it that, who's going to say a thing that's not always popularly received, and that is you have to read to write. So for me, when I talk about being inspired to write, I'm probably talking about finding something to read that will inspire you to write. The argument for reading in the genre in which you intend to write and publish is that your work will be informed by everything you take in. If you don't take in anything that's in genre, then your work is going to be lacking something. And your readers will pick up on it because your readers are likely to be people who consume a lot of that genre. And if you don't sound like you have some sense of what the genre is about, your readers might know, you know? So how do you find out what's going on in genre? How do you start if you haven't already? Well, I can help you with that too. There's an overwhelming amount of material published in science fiction, not just every year, but every week. My suggestion is that you read short stories in genre. Science fiction is a place where the short story is still very much a living form. And there's lots of great options out there for finding science fiction short stories. There are magazines that publish science fiction short stories. There are anthologies that publish science fiction short stories. And there's a bunch of places online that publish science fiction short stories. But the great thing about short stories is because of their size, you can read a lot of them in a short time, and it'll give you a good sense of what the playing field looks like, what other people are doing, how the kind of thing you want to do stacks up to what's already being done or what hasn't been done yet. And it's also a way to start thinking in terms of, oh gosh, you know, hey, I want to try that. That sounds really cool. Ooh, I haven't done that yet. Oh, wow. Being inspired by other writers. Now, I know there are some of you who are going to say, I want to be original. I don't want to be influenced. Believe me, I know that attitude. I know that feeling. It's anxiety. It's something to let go of. It's not something to cling to. The more you read, the more your writing will show the breadth of that information, the depth of your investment in your genre. The more your readers will appreciate, hey, this is somebody who understands how this stuff goes together. It'll help your readers trust you. that you're going to give them a good story. And you're going to give them a story that is in the genre that they're looking for. Because you yourself read in that genre. I'm even going to say, you know, I know a lot of you out there are pressed for time. You're watching these videos on how to write a novel, and investing even the time to do that. And maybe you've only got like one afternoon, 4 hours a week. I'm still going to suggest that you spend half that time reading and half that time writing. Because the best way to learn to be a writer is to be a reader. And good readers make good writers. By good as a term, what I really mean, and I said it on the Mystery Channel, I'll say it here too, I think it's a numbers game, folks. The more you read, the more you write. In both cases, quantity will yield quality. There's only a very few folks out there that can just spout work that people want to read without having put in tons and tons and tons of time learning to do it, and without having read tons and tons and tons of stuff to learn to do it. We're going to talk about a lot of different skills over the course of the time I record these videos for the channel. Some of those skills can be learned with practice, but if you make a practice of reading in the genre that you're in, some of those skills are going to come to you automatically because you're going to absorb them as a reader. So I'm going to say it again. Read, 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 read. Some specific recommendations. Part of the reason I've had to do 7 takes on this video is that, well, I've had technical issues with my phone, but I also am having a tendency to go off on tangents and talk 5 minutes at a time about individual short stories. That's really not the point of what I'm trying to do. And I'm really trying to keep these under 10 minutes. So, specific recommendations. I'm only going to make a few. Before I get into them, I'm going to say it's my intention with this channel to highlight writers of color and queer writers from the LGBTQIA2+ community. I've done a lot of science fiction history as well as a lot of science fiction reading. I can say we've always had writers of color in the genre. We've always had queer writers in the genre. Y'all have not always been recognized, supported, or been there in the numbers that you deserve to be. So part of what I'm going to try to do here is provide some recognition for work that has, for too long and for too many reasons, been overlooked. I'm going to start by saying, if you want a short story single author collection that will inspire you by its genius, by its breadth of subject and depth, please pick up N.K. Jemisin's How Long Till Black Future Month. Jemisin can do anything with words, I think. That collection is such a delight, and it's part of the reason I've had to do so many takes, because I keep getting caught in the weeds talking about individual short stories for way too long. So I'm just going to say, Jemisin, How Long Till Black Future Month. Go find it. Go read it. It's amazing. I will mention it again at other points in other videos on this channel. I also highly recommend, if you consider yourself a more literary reader, if you like chewier, more academic science fiction, the annual Nebula Awards Showcase. Science fiction does 2 major awards: the Nebula, which is given by writers to writers, the Hugo, which is given by fans to writers. If you are more the fan sort than the academic writer sort, the Hugo stories can be found often online. If you go for Hugo shortlist, and you can find some of those stories collected up. Those stories are often stories that are going to appeal to younger readers or readers that don't have that kind of academic background. It's not to say all the Nebula stories are that complex, but some of them are. Other anthology recommendations. There's just so much fantastic stuff out there. I will say one of the volumes I'm reading right now that I'm finding really wonderful is the year's best transgender science fiction. There are all kinds of year's best anthologies in science fiction, including a year's best gay science fiction also. The transgender anthology, transgender sci-fi anthology, Transcendent, is one of the newest. K.M. Sparza, who is the editor, is doing a fantastic job, I think, making choices. The stories have been just terrific. There are all kinds of options for other science fiction anthologies as well that will inspire you, that will give you a new perspective, that will make you think, hey, I was always going to write a story about Mars. Maybe it's time. Hey, I was always going to write a story about a talking dog. Maybe now it's time. There's all kinds of great stuff. And I hope that between now and next week, you are able to locate some of it for yourself. If nothing I've suggested appeals, librarians love to make recommendations. Call your local library and say, what can you tell me about science fiction anthologies? I want to find science fiction short stories. And I bet they'll be able to help you. I bet they'll be thrilled to help you. So, until next week, which is Inspiration Part 2, when I'm going to give you another kind of reading assignment. Have fun. Happy reading.